Okay, boxing fans, right now I am talking about calling all boxing channels. EBOXINGNEWS' response to BayloricTV. So Ingram was asking people in the YouTube boxing community to make a video saying how they became boxing fans, and I wasn't actually going to take part in this because sometimes I just don't feel like making videos. But then I was listening to someone's videos and someone said, I've actually made a video, and I was like, no I've not. I probably should make a video if everyone else has. So I've decided to make a video. So, how did I get into boxing? I'm going to split this up into like three things. I'm going to give you like how I got into boxing, more of a background on me at the same time of how I got into boxing, and then a bit of an FAQ, frequently asked questions, just so that if you had a question you wanted to ask, I'm probably going to answer it. And then I'm going to end it with a nice little message for everyone else, especially the newer channels that are popping up every now and again and may just watch this freakishly. How did I get into boxing? Subconsciously, I think I must have always been a boxing fan, a bit of a fight fan. I've always liked a bit of a brawl. I'm only 23 years old right now, so my first actual memory of boxing was watching the likes of the later stages in his career, Prince Nazim, Here Comes the Hot Stepper, Murderer. But I was also, big into the fight video games, stuff like that I've always been imprinted on my mind. I remember one of my friends came around with one of the boxing video games, and I didn't know of many of the people, on that game, so I decided to do a little bit of research, and I learned pretty much all about the likes of, the Mike Tyson who I'd heard of, Ali who I'd heard of, but then I looked into the other guys that I didn't hear of, checked out their records, seen if they were quite good, looked at what their skill set was on these games, and was just checking out what they were like. And then eventually I researched them in terms of the internet, and I tried to watch a few of their fights. It's become more and more easy over the time, obviously due to the increase and rise of the internet, but other people obviously didn't have that chance and they had to watch it at the time. When afterwards I started to research guys that were overseas, looked at the best fighters also from the UK, like Nigel Benn, who's actually still one of my favourite fighters of all time. I was still, at that same time by the way, still playing football with my mates. Boxing was always second best in terms of football to me at that time when I was really young, around the ages of 11 or 12, in around 2000, 2001. The major changes came around 2004, 2005, when Liverpool were doing alright in the Champions League. Well, when I say alright, they won it. Of course they did alright. They won the Champions League. Everyone's got to remember that. But also Sky was actually advertising boxing in a much more aggressive way than they are right now. Around the same time, Hatton fought Costa Zoo. It was a key point. It was an exciting fight. It had an underdog story. A lot of people, including me, really started to follow boxing after fights like that. I ended up, living in quite a bit of a rough area in Liverpool, and I did quite well in my studies, believe it or not. But I did okay, and because I had some really pushy parents, we both decided it was best if I went to college, and I ended up going to one of the top 3 colleges in the northwest. I ended up getting like 5 A levels, like an AS level too. But it was good times, Around that time, my days were really, how can I put it, they were really wide open. I had like 2 or 3 hours some days between subjects, so I could actually just go to the library, do my work in like the hour, literally was done, and then spend the rest of the time researching football players and more importantly researching boxing too. So by the age of 18 I ended up knowing all about the likes of Maidana before he was fighting for world titles. I knew about him when he was in Argentina. I knew about Matisse. I knew about Povetkin. I knew all about the Klitschko's before they were fighting David Haye, because that's when most people knew of them. I knew about Froch. I knew about David Haye while he was fighting for the European title. I knew all these guys, mate. I'm not messing. I used to research these guys, and when I was doing this research, it was paying off because some of my friends were talking, and we ended up talking about boxing. They were still talking about who the best boxer ever was, and it was never anyone that I would ever suggest was the best ever boxer. I'm not going to go into that because there's no real answer to that. But what I did realise was, compared to my casual friends, casual boxing friends, my knowledge had totally exceeded theirs significantly. So I was looking for more intellectual and intelligent boxing conversation. The only problem was I didn't really find it until I went to uni. When I was in uni, like I said, there was a few people who did like boxing more than casual fans. There was no one who was ever, this passionate as I am. And also, the people who I talk to on the internet about boxing, they're the type of people who are ever so passionate about it, if you want to go with that way. Around 2008, 2009, I was in uni, like I said. Boxing started to exceed football at this point because around that time Liverpool weren't doing too good, but also boxing was more of a money maker for me. And I'm just going to go into this for a bit if you don't mind. Like I said, we were real poor at this time. Well, me and a few of my mates were real poor because I've never had the luxury of having my mum and dad, give me everything, unfortunately. We weren't too good. I went to uni. There was only a minority of jobs in the area that I was living at the time because I lived away from home. And also the government didn't really help anyone. They gave us silly grants that, only just about covered the rent. Me and two of my friends, we got a nice, when I say nice, it was a fucking bedsit, mate, right? We got a house. The three of us lived in this little house in the sticks, about a mile away from where the uni was, and it was the rent was cheap, but that was good because we needed the money as well to sort of live off because we didn't have jobs at the time. We had literally 10 or 15 quid a week maximum to live off. Okay, so this wasn't easy and it wasn't glamorous. I'll tell you that for free, right? So I did actually like to have a flutter before that, and I decided to go more into, the fluttering side of boxing because I'd won a few bets here and there, like Hay knocking out Mormac, Mayweather stopping Hatton. I saw those fights. I saw the economic opportunity, you might say, and I put a little bit of money on those ones, and I won a few pennies back. Yeah, and by the way, that's what you heard. I put money on Mayweather stopping Hatton, not the other way round. Mayweather winning. I want people to always remember that because a lot of people, especially my casual friends, will go, "Oh, Hatton's going to do this, Hatton's going to do that." I was like, Hatton ain't going to do shit. Right. Anyway, back to penniless Mark. Eventually, just before I ended up getting a good job. When I say good job, a job that just got me by. A good idea presented itself in 2008, and it was someone I'd actually researched, and this was billed as a super fight, and the odds on the underdog winning were 3-1 at William Hill, just to win, right? And this was a fucking no-brainer to me, mate. That's all I'm going to point out. So I withdrew the money I had in my bank account, and I went straight in, and I put just about 100 quid, right, on 3-1 on this opponent to beat. It was Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao to beat Oscar De La Hoya. If you don't think that he was the underdog, you don't have to believe me, but it's the truth. William Hill had my 3-1. Obviously he won, and it funded my food, my drink, and my partying at uni for the next 2 months. And let me just remind you, when you've got £10 to £15 a week to live on, you don't actually not go out when you're skint, and you don't not party. You understand? What you do is you find a way to live within your means. Like, you've got so much money, like half of your money for food, in which you literally just shop out the reduced section in Tesco or Asda, somewhere like that. Honestly, right? And then you run down to the local, not the local bargain booths, that'd be too expensive. You go to somewhere like what was the place I go to? B&M Bargains or somewhere like that. Everyone knows B&M Bargains, surely, and that's places where they've got the proper cheap alcohol. But I found this one deal and a half, right? I'm not even gonna lie. It was 2 litres, yeah, 2 litres of it wasn't even Strongbow. It was a cheap ass version of Strongbow. It was something like Taurus or something, yeah, and it was 180 for 2 litres. And I'm not joking. We ended up drinking that, and I'm not joking. You ended up getting a hangover in the night. It was so bad for you. You were getting a hangover later on that night, mate. You didn't have to go to bed and wake up to get a hangover. It was good, actually. I'm not gonna lie. It was good because you got 2 litres for 180. That was quality. No one can beat that. So yeah, Another time, anyway, yeah, we ended up going to another bar, and it was a bar with one of my mates working. It was just before I got a job, luckily, and I put a sizable amount of money on Audley Harrison at A-Force to beat Michael Sprott, and as you can, I'm sure, tell, that was a very awkward match for me, because Audley Harrison won the first 2 or 3, and then he lost every single round until the 12th. So at round 11, I was pretty much crying into my pint, and I pretty much threw my coupon into the bin. Round 12, boom! You know what I mean? All of a sudden, I jumped straight into that bin and was searching like a bum looking for food, and I got a nice payout too. I'm telling you, that was a good fight. I mean, I jumped out my seat, give the barmaid a pure heart attack. It was a good day. Anyway, yeah, luckily in 2009, one of my mates' aunties gave me a job out here work. We ended up, me and my 2 mates, working in the same place. We all work in the same place, and this wasn't like a well-paid job or nothing, you know. It was just more than I made do, you know what I mean. I ended up walking away with about 300 quid a month. So, but I was never so happy and grateful, you know. I was really happy and grateful that I got the job. I had the opportunity, and I'd got a bit of money in my pocket at the time, and that was in 2009. Ever since then, I started to look into writing for a few boxing websites. I wrote for one awful one, I mean, I'm not going to hide from it, I did. And it more or less inspired me to pretty much set up, you know, my own website, which I'm still looking to make happen. I've got a few friends that will say they're trying to help me make it happen. One of which has got a computer science degree. We both need to get time to do it though, because right now it's really busy. We're really busy with work and that, but you know, that's how it is. That's how I got into boxing. Tell me what you think about that. To be honest, I don't really mind what you think about that, but that's how I got into it, yeah. Anyway, going into this FAQ, frequently asked questions. People always do ask, why do you have girls on your video and not your face? Well, the simple answer is, when I first made my channel, my first prediction was Hay versus Vladimir, which I got spot on, by the way. You know, both winner and method, and I bet on it a 4-1, which was a good unanimous decision. And at that time, I used the pirated video footage from YouTube. I had a bit of music on there, and it was a good video. I'm not gonna lie, I was really happy with myself. And I did that for the next few videos, except copyright ended up kicking my ass. You know, I'm not joking. Right, and then everyone else was like, I was looking at everyone else, and they all had either pictures of the fight, or they had their face online, and the camera on my laptop was absolutely gash. I mean, it was a bad laptop, an old laptop, you know what I mean? It fit the purpose of what I needed it for at the time at uni, but it just wasn't ever going to be, you know, able to, for me to, I couldn't at the time to, you know, it was just one of those things, basically. And I found a unique selling point from it. This was like my calling card. I put the pictures of the rather hot females partaking in boxing, with a few special pictures here and there. And the other questions you're going to ask now is, will I stop doing it if you don't agree with it or like it? No. Are you wasting your time, you know, asking me to change it? Yeah. So that's pretty much all I'm going to say about the girls on the video. Next question is, who are my favourite fighters? And people always seem to ask me that question. There's no real way of answering that question, because I don't particularly have many favourites. I don't like a lot of the world champions, because I find that they're too sold out. They don't fight the fights I want them to see. Stuff like that, really. The fighters I do like are fighters that I talk to on Twitter. The boxers I buy tickets off directly, so I'm putting money in their pockets. And also, you know, I'll give you a few examples. Dylan White, UK heavyweight. I've seen him once personally, and I'm going to buy his tickets again. Adil Anwar, I've seen him 3 times now, and I'm going to go to his British title fight wherever it is, no matter where. My favourites basically change over time, depending on who I'm actually going to watch. I buy tickets. I like to invest the money, but put it into the boxers' pockets. So that's how I do. That's how I like to do it. People also ask, like, why are your favourite fighters not the pound for pound? Well, the pound for pound fighters, I don't think, fight the opposition I want them to. So there's no point me being their favouring them really. Let me give you an example. Both Mayweather and Pacquiao did not fight each other, so why do I have to root for either of them? I'll definitely watch them fight, and I'll bet on them fight, as like an economic little mindset would, because usually they win. Not all the time, but usually they do. Andre Ward, if you look at him, he's already cleaned out his division, while both Mayweather and Pacquiao have literally never cleaned out their division at all. They've spent 8 years, well, Floyd spent 8 years at 147, and he's never unified the division. Okay? Pacquiao spent 5 years, and he's never unified it either. And both have been at 147 in a period of time where the other guy was not there, and they've still not managed to unify the division. I don't like stuff like that. There gets to be a time where you're so big, you're almost bigger than the sport of boxing. And at that time, me and that boxer seem to go opposite ways. I go back to, buying tickets, watching good fights that I want to see domestically. I mean, I like domestic boxing pretty much more than I like world boxing right now. I still watch world boxing, and I'll still bet on world boxing, but I'll go to domestic boxing, I'll bet on domestic boxing, and I'll put money into the boxer's pocket. Whereas you won't catch me buying a pay-per-view any time right now. In fact, I might buy Froch Kessler because I wanted to see that fight. That one is an exception. The last one that people always ask me is, because I'm from Liverpool, I must be biased towards Liverpool fighters, and I just cannot say you cannot be further from the truth if you actually think that about me. Because the first thing is, I'm actually more critical of Liverpool fighters. I've already earmarked a few fighters on where I expect them to go. I've never told them this, and I never will tell them this, but I've told other people, other friends of mine, I've said, he won't get past this level, he won't get past that level, and I don't think I've ever said that one of these boxers from Liverpool is a future world champion. I don't think I've ever done it. I've always took it one fight at a time. But if I see them struggling at a level, I say I don't think they'll ever get past a certain level. And that's just my opinion. I don't share my opinion with the boxers, because that would be disrespectful. But I still have my opinion on where they are, but I'm also probably more critical. Other things that include on why I'm not biased towards Liverpool fighters is because a lot of Liverpool fighters are actually dickheads. Not all, definitely not all, but a majority percentage of Liverpool fighters, if you just look on their Twitter pages, all you see is them slagging off almost every person, even their own followers, stuff like that. And it's not just me who's picked up on it, there are other people on Twitter who have picked up on it, and it doesn't look good. I don't like it, and I'm not going to endorse that type of boxer. A lot of Liverpool boxers actually think they're better than they really are. That's something else that I've noticed. But I think you could say that by a lot of UK boxers as well, unfortunately. The other thing is, I'm actually not biased. If a guy's going to lose, I'm going to say he's going to lose no matter what, or no matter where he's from. I'll never say it to their face, because there's just no point. I'm not going to go onto someone's Twitter page and say you're going to lose. There's no point in that, and I'm just going to end up getting hate back off someone. So I've never actually done that, luckily. I'm just going to leave it here now, where I'm just going to give you a personal message to all the people who are doing these boxing channels. And I just want to say, keep doing what you're doing. Contrary to what some people say, you are actually making a difference in boxing. People do get excited by watching your fight videos. They get hyped up on the fights and hearing your post-fight thoughts. But you do have to show resilience if you're going to do this, and you have to have tough skin, because you're going to encounter a lot of faceless hate on YouTube. And also, there's going to be a lot of boxers who do reject you and literally hate on you. I personally didn't see it coming from Liverpool boxers. Well, a Liverpool boxer, but it has happened. And if anything, it's made me mentally stronger, and also given me an extra goal, because I will be laughing when that person comes to their demise, which will happen.